We are now joined via Skype by Lesiba Mothata, who is the Executive Chief Economist at Alexander Forbes Investment. Lesiba, thank you so much for joining us. Now, how good is the news for the overall economy?
It's a good thing. The very few good news that come out in South Africa of late. This is a positive outcome, along with what could happen with the steel price going forward. It does show that the rand has a positive contribution. It helps on consumer sentiment because right now we've been having consumers that are looking so depressed in terms of how they're feeling about the prospects of the economy going forward, which has negatively impacted their behavior in terms of buying cars, buying houses. We see it in credit extension data, really quite dire. And if you leave it untouched by some form of stimulus, I'm not saying this will be a huge amount of stimulus, but it contributes to confidence that should not fulfill itself to staying in a downward spiral.
Now, what made the cut necessary at this point in time?
It was inflation. So they recalibrated their model and they found that inflation has improved. There are inflation targeting in a central bank, and the numbers have showed that both in the short term and in the medium term, inflation is well within the target range. And for that reason, and if you think of the weaknesses in the economy, which themselves are disinflationary, there's no material risks to worry about inflation significantly increasing from where we sit, barring what could happen with the currency. But therein, they also took some views which were not there before, but I think they've made a call on how credit ratings will pan out and what assumptions they put in there.
Now, Lesiba, could we expect such good news in this quarter? And had experts expected the rate to remain unchanged, and why?
So it took everyone by surprise because things have become very difficult in SA. There's been a cloud of misunderstanding in terms of what the mandate discussions will go. The governor has worked tirelessly to explain it, but one could have argued that in an MPC, there could have been a discussion to this end. If we cut, does it mean that we are lending support to a more populist view or not? But it looks like they've really taken bold decisions, and bold statements have been made by the governor, who has taken leadership and head and shoulders above all the institutions in this country. He has demonstrated that indeed the SARB was previously very strong, but now it's even stronger and it's of world repute.
Now, we saw that the rand did take a knock after the news released by the Reserve Bank governor. Was the rate not good news for the rand? Can you explain why it depreciated?
So, at the same time today, the European Central Bank was making its own monetary policy decisions. It is clear out of there that they will soon begin tightening and slowing their pace of purchasing government debt along with corporate debt. So that means they could increase interest rates along with the Fed that is on its path of increasing interest rates. Those global factors could suggest that the flow of funds towards the emerging market could slow to some degree, and I think that contributes to the movement of the rand that we've seen. Because when that happens, in other words, higher interest rates elsewhere globally, it impacts the emerging market currency. Also, with a cut, yields, relatively speaking, it's looking less because it's less interest rates. Investors are going to get less yield out of it, and that's why they could sell it for some reason. But this is a very muted move, and I won't be surprised if we continue to see a bias towards a much more stronger rand.
Now, Lesiba, what about our impending ratings? Are we moving in the right manner to protect ourselves from a further downgrade?
Undoubtedly, the contribution from the Governor of Central Bank today contributes positively to ratings. I'm afraid, however, that the decision of a downgrade is well advanced when you listen to the discussion that comes out from Standard & Poor's. When we're just looking at Standard & Poor's and Moody's. That decision could count. But the work from the sub, as he was talking, he said South Africa is a solid credit. If it loses its investment grade to non-investment grade, then you get different type of investor who is more speculative beginning to hold debt like SA because it is indeed strong credit. The market movement attest to this matter. I began to talk about it as a fallen angel country that has the probability of it coming back from non-investment grade. Because the institutions are still in place in this country. In fact, we don't look anywhere near what we've seen in other countries, including Brazil and Russia, and even in historic outcomes like the likes of Mexico, have seen a dire economic outcome than we have here. For that reason, when a country is like a fallen angel, there's actually a huge amount of opportunity for investors, and that's why they continue to come here.
Now, Lesiba, very quickly before we wrap up, just looking at the government or finance minister's release of 14-point plan to boost the economy and the reaction from Fitch saying that that plan is not going to work. Your take on this very quickly?
Yeah, it will not lift potential growth because the plan, it's just an update of what the Treasury is doing. But what is positive about it is that there are timelines you can look at and hold the Treasury accountable because they solicited that type of deadline. But more importantly, it will appear that the new finance minister is holding the mantle of economic policy on his shoulders as it was expressed by the interaction that he's expressed with other departments. And that can be positive because we haven't seen it before.
Lesiba, we'll have to leave it there for now. Thank you so much for joining us. That was the Executive Chief Economist at Alexander Forbes Investment, Lesiba Mothata, joining us via Skype. A news just